A absolutely wonderful rendition. I was going to keep this to myself, but I said, maybe you can share this. Please don't take this personally, but after you get that trombone fixed, maybe you guys need a psychologist. Just saying. No. Wonderful, wonderful music. And incidentally, those of you who happen to be lovers of that song, The Shadow of Your Smile, my wife and I this weekend saw a wonderful movie starring Margaret. What was that person who starred? I'm sorry, Diane Keaton. Yes, thank you very much. At the age of 75, a few neurons are slipping. Anyway, it's a wonder. If you are a sucker for romantic comedies, go see Diane Keaton. Wonderful jazz portrayal. Our next speaker is my dear buddy, Kurt Wagner, who's going to tell us about Flounders. And Kurt and I go way back. He was one of the first people to try to drown me. I'm pleased to say he failed.
First of all, it's a big honor to be up here. And one of the things that Carl loved Flounders, and the Flounders loved him. Flounders, by the way, is a water polo group started by Matt Mann back in 1926. And it's an unusually rough game of water polo. In fact, the lifeguards sometimes refer to it as kill ball. And as Jim can attest, meeting Carl feet first was kind of an interesting little adventure. So, I would like to spend a couple minutes telling you about some Rennieisms as I wrote little anecdotes about Carl and the Flounders. In particular, the Flounders being a rough game of water polo, quite often they would grab people from behind. There were no rules. Oh, Jim mentioned the pinching rule, and there was one other one that when I was first introduced to it, Professor Clark Hopkins put his arm around me and said, well, there's only one rule in this game. He said, you can't hold down a married man more than 5 minutes. So anyway, grabbing people from behind was not unusual. In fact, Craig Romans around here somewhere, he related this little incident to me. He said he was pointing along, and Craig's a pretty ferocious player. He's can be a challenge, to say the least. And Carl got him from behind. There was only one problem. They were on the same team. Some of you probably know that Carl has done Tai Chi for many years. And it's kind of interesting. He would arrive to the Flounders pool at the IM pool down on Hoover Street, and he was always early. And after showering, he'd go out, and as Jim alluded to, Flounders played in the nude, which was traditional back in the 20s. Men didn't wear suits, and it's carried to this day, except occasionally when we go in public, we get to wear a suit. But anyway, Carl would get out on the pool deck after showering early, and everybody's still showering. You come out there, and there's Carl doing Tai Chi in the buff on the pool deck. You can only imagine. The Flounders also did a semi-trip occasionally, and they're still doing that today, up in the northern lakes, Mackinac, Little Current, and so forth. And one year we went from Traverse City across to Green Bay area, and we were in Big Bay, Mackinac, and Carl is a lover of canoes and wooden small boats. He just loved those things. Well, we had a handmade wooden dinghy that we were pulling along behind the boat, and he looked at me and he said, Captain, would you mind if I jumped in the boat and you can tow me behind? So I said, sure. So we put him out about 100 feet, and he's sitting back there. Occasionally we pull him in and throw him a beer and a sandwich. And, anyway, he just loved it. I think he was out there for at least an hour or two. I can't remember exactly, but it was just phenomenal that he loved that boat so much. When he got out, of course, somebody tied the boat up. I'm not sure who. I came back on deck after taking a little snooze. It's gone. We did recover it about 3-4 months later. It was found up in the northern part of the lake, but never found out who actually tied that back on. Well, as a final note, I'd like to say that one of the most charming and special manyisms, as I like to refer to them, is the one that sums up his love of life and others. For all of us who knew him, we'll always remember that subtle smile and wink that he gave at very special moments as everybody is talking. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
I know it's been since 1979 because that's when I came back from my sabbatical, walking down South University when I hear a cheerful voice saying, "Hi, Carl, nice to see you. Let's go play water polo." I said, "Wow, I'm sort of busy today." But Dick Bailey doesn't quit, of course, so about 2 days later he had me out there playing water polo. So he was my father's father. And since that time, I have been enjoying water polo for these, I guess, the three basic ways that people enjoy water polo. The first is, of course, for health. And water polo is my health meter. And I figure when I get out of the game and I can pump my bicycle in first gear, up State Street to the law school, and I don't feel like I'm almost dead at the top, that I'm probably in pretty good physical condition, and it's all due to water polo. Second reason I play is, of course, social, and I formed close friendships and founders over the years, goodness knows. The most wonderful part of the game, what do I remember years ago in the game when I first came in? I have to remember John Slocum. There's a tree plant right outside the pool area. And I remember John because I remember what he felt like when he got up behind me and he put his arms around my neck and pulled me down in the water and I really thumbs up. I thought this was a strange game, this one. Even beyond the slope. And I seem to learn to stay out of John Slocum. Certainly turn my back on. It's a wonderful game. Anybody wants to do it, and we've got to get a lot of people who are going to be around for the anniversary, and indeed at that 100th anniversary, I want to be there too. And so hello to all of you, and I'll tell you how concerned you all have been for indulging in films.
Realized that Carl and I have something else in common. John Slocum also put John Slocum also put a hammerlock on my neck many years ago. Carl and Tamara married in 1999, and some of you may not know it, but my wife and I were pretty instrumental in getting the two of them together. And within that structure, I'd like to talk about another characteristic of Carl. We talked about his ferocity, we talked about his tenacity, and now I'd like to talk about his perspicacity. Believe it, it actually is in the dictionary. I Googled it last night. Anyway, Carl had finally set a date for tomorrow. It had taken some time. Tomorrow was sort of slow in terms of recognizing the tremendous virtues that Carl recommended, but eventually he got her to commit to a date. And the date was then on a particular Sunday, and this would have been probably in late September, that the two of them were going to go down the Huron River in a canoe with Carl rowing and Tamara in front in a beautiful floral dress with a sun umbrella to make sure she didn't get burnt. But that was to happen on Sunday. Carl was always careful and cautious in everything that he did. And so when it came to that particular Saturday before, he elicited the aid of his daughter, Melissa. And they did a dry run in a wet river. And they wended their way down the Huron River, coursing the actual path that would happen the very next day. And when they got into the area of the Delhi Rapids, if you've ever gone down there by canoe, you know that there are sometimes big stones, boulders in the way. I've known many people in my life, but the only person I know who ever got out of that canoe, had Melissa hold it while he went into the water and pulled all of the boulders out of the way to make sure that it would be an easy ride. That was our buddy Carl. Okay, Carl and Tamara married in 1999, about actually they met in September. They got pinned in November. They got engaged in January, and they got married on the very same deck where they met in the. And they soon realized that they needed something larger than Tamara's tiny condo. They started looking for a house. Tamara's only criteria was that it be something that was architecturally interesting. As many as you know, that turned out to be an old church, but they converted thanks to Carl's perspicacity into their wonderful home. In 2004, HGTV filmed a segment about Carl, Tamara, and the church. And they can tell you about it in their very own words.